Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. My name is John Evans. I'm the Associate Director of Student Life, and with me I have Miss Holly Martin. She is the Business System Analyst, and she deals with financials and accounts receivable, and also cash receipts for the System Office. Miss Martin works remotely at. Remind me of the community college, Miss Martin.
Montgomery Community College.
Montgomery Community College. Thank you. And with that, I'll let her take over and tell us what we're going to learn today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm glad you invited me today, and I hope I can share some information with you. Usually when I'm doing a session, I want to always let you know some goals that we have in mind that we want to accomplish today. What you're going to walk away from the session. Today, we're going to discuss the fees, um, revenues that you get, and how you can expense those, or what can you use them for. There's rules and regulations set up by the Accounting Procedure Manual and State Board of Community College Codes, and we're going to share those links. And for me, that's one of those things, if you really can't sleep at night, just go to this website and start reading these, and it helps tremendously for sleep. Also, we're going to give you a glance of reports within colleague. This way you can use these to track and analyze and review your budget. Some of the things we're going to talk about is how we can move to our modernization, uh, self-service, how wonderful that can be, and it's sort of a one-shot deal, and it's right at your fingertips. So we want to share that. And also, we want to give you some time to ask questions and voice concerns, and sometimes what I find in my sessions that your peers sometimes are the greatest gift of knowledge for you, because some of these people, staff, have been doing it for years, so they might can share some information they use as well. I'm going to now turn it back over to JJ and let him talk about the fees. He's going to talk about what you can do, charge fees and spending, and what this accounting procedure manual and state board codes talk about.
Thank you. So, under the fee structure, each institution has local control over the types of fees that they charge, and they're typically broken down into four different categories. And one is the instructional fee or instructional technology fee, and that's both curriculum and continuing education. The second fee is the student activity fee, which I'm sure most of you all are aware of, and probably most of you oversee the student activity fee budget for your institution. The third is categorized as college access, parking, and security fee, or CAPS fee. And a number of institutions charge a fee, whether it be through parking decks or for cameras, security, sort of additional equipment along those lines. And then the fourth fee are any specific or required fees that your institution has in addition to the three others. Fees can be, I'll primarily talk about the student activity fee because that's probably the one we are most interested in. Currently, as of today, 58 colleges all charge a student activity fee in some shape, form, or fashion. And in your handout, you will have the most recent student activity fee report that was done by the system office, and it will show a breakdown of how much your institution is charging for student activity fees compared to other institutions. Just a quick side note: seven colleges charge up to the $35 maximum per semester, and as you know, student activities fees can be used for a wide variety of things at your institution. But the key sort of underlying current with that is that they all have to be spent with the focus and purpose on students. So scholarships, student functions, student events, athletics, clubs and organizations, graduation expenses. Some use them for IDs or student publications, such as the handbook, etc. And so, as long as whatever you are doing is relatable to student activity fee, students, at some point, the student activity fee can be utilized. And last thing I'll say with that is I have also provided you the handout for permissible and impermissible expenses for student activity fees. So make sure you read that information over in your packet. If you want more information on sort of the state board code and sort of state board guidelines, I believe in the next slide, Ms. Martin has that information. Ms. Martin?
Yes, here I have actually put a link within the slide, and then I realized you guys might not have that link available. So I do have the website link that you can copy and paste into your browser. So one of the things I wanted to show you is the actual State Board of Community College Code first, because this really is the governing body of that, like what JJ was talking about, telling you what you can use and you can't use your codes for. So like I said, this is out on our college website under State Board of Community Colleges, and I believe that on state, I think with your student service, you have a lot of information as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I believe that would also be available and helpful. So in here, you can actually go through here and read about live projects and definitions and local fees. What is a local fee, self-supporting tuition. So it's about how you can establish those fees and that type of thing. So this is what governs that. But the one that I wanted to mention that when we was talking with JJ was actually the accounting procedure manuals. That's something you guys probably don't see very often. And the first one you can go to is go to that link and go to the Fiscal Procedures Manual. And I believe it's 36. And it talks about establishment of student fees. It's a local board of trustees, like student activities, instructional. Also, there's annual reporting, as we talked about, the annual fee that happens every year. And also it lists as you all the state board codes that you can reference back in that the previous link. The other option is here. Close out this. It's a chart of accounts. Now, this is something you guys probably would not think about reading very often. And let me see what happened here. The chart of accounts is not coming up. Okay, there it goes. A little bit slow time there. But in here, I know that this talks about, you're going to hear the business office use terminology like vote codes, purpose codes, object codes, unit codes. Well, for our purposes, we're governed to have extensive general ledger account number. And most for you, you're going to get what we refer to a unit code. And that's sort of your department code. And that's usually set up by every community college has a different one for specific departments. But they are specific, what they call purpose codes. What do we use it for? And it's like I told JJ, I want to show you this chart of accounts here. And, you're going to hear your business office refer to, they're going to give you a number for some of these reports. I told JJ it's normally a unit code. It's what we call it. It's what your department code that you use to look for this information. But there's certain information that is relevant to your college, and this is extensive. Most of the guys, what you're going to do is see the unit code on there, and you're also going to be a lot of times they'll refer to a specific purpose code. And I'm going to look for 292, for example. And this is your instructional technology fees. So this is where it talks about they can't exceed more than 16 credit hours. And it, again, also tells you how you can utilize those fees and what they can and can't be used for. The one other one I thought I'd bring up is like 770. I think that's, let's see. I know there's one for Con Ed, which is 392 on that, and I believe the other one is 770. Let me just scroll through here really quick. But this is, something that's additional information for you if you SCGA funds. Again, that's something that you might assign or have that you need to look at your government organization, student government association, or similar organizations. So they have specific purposes that we use, and that is all controlled by the accounting procedure manual that we use for reporting revenues and expenditures for those purposes. So it's just a tool for you guys to have on that information. So that was something I wanted to share with you. Do you have any questions about this manual? Because it's one of those things, like I said, it's you know, helpful, but you know, it's one of those that I think is very a useful tool. Okay, if we have no more questions, what I want to discuss now is how you review and analyze a budget. When we're thinking about reviewing and analyzing the budget, most of you might be using some kind of Excel spreadsheet, or you know, looking at your fees and trying to figure out, well, Colleague, which is our CSI college information software, it's called Colleague. There's actually three places that you can really view and analyze your budget. So we're going to discuss those in there. The General Ledger is a module. It's called the General Ledger module, and they have all sorts of reports. Some of you might be familiar. Then, if you're already on WebAdvisor and you're using it for registration and student payments and stuff, you've already got WebAdvisor up there. You can move on to budget. And then, of course, where I want everybody to go to is the self-service, because this is the modernization. WebAdvisor, as of December, for the accounts receivable and cash receipt, will no longer be getting any updated patches, so they're going to have to move to self-service in the future. So I see that being something that we're moving forward to. So these are, you know, places that you can go to that you, as a staff person, can get some information instead of, you know, having the business office, you know, email you the reports, and then you have to talk to the business office to find out information. So you can keep a track of it yourself. So before you get started with anything, I want to give you some steps that before you proceed with any of your Colleague reports, WebAdvisor, self-service. These are some items that has to be done. Most of you that's here, you're a staff member, so you already have a staff record. So if you have somebody new coming into a position, first of all, they need to have a staff record. This is usually your Colleague ID number, and normally IT handles this. For most of these reports, they have the business office staff can assign GL security and roles. This is a great tool that came out several years ago, probably back in 2008, that you can actually control what general ledger account numbers that you all see. So, you know, when they give you that little unit code that you're using, what I call the unit code, or your department code to run a budget, they have assigned a general ledger role and security. And I'm not going to go in detail, but you know, if the business office wants to allow you to be able to say WebAdvisor, self-service, or any of these certain reports within Colleague, they can control what general ledger numbers you have, and that's a great internal control because people are only seeing their information that they are needed, and only certain staff members would have access. The second thing is, for some of these reports, or screens, or we call them mnemonics, or processes within Colleague, you have to have access to be able to view these so you can analyze your budget. This is normally done with the IT department, and they usually have to set that up to view these and give you, some of them are inquiry only and some of them give you full access. And I'll be honest with you, all these ones that we're going to show today really are a report, so there's no reason that you should not be granted full access to them and not just be inquired, because you can see these reports, and it's just a report. You won't change any information in Colleague. You won't mess with the general ledger, but you will be able to see those. Next is if you're on Web Advisor. There's a few little setup screens really for the business office side of the house. There's a cost center parameter screen, a financial web parameter screen that has to be set up. And of course, you've already been assigned your general ledger security roles, so therefore you should be, that's pretty much how Web Advisor goes. And then of course IT has to provide the links and processes that they have. Then the self-service. Basically, you've done 1, 2, 3, and 4 previously. Self-service is done from the business office standpoint. Basically, what's left now is for IT to assign roles and permissions, which is given in self-service, and I won't get into detail about that, but they give you a role and permission, and they set up where you can view the budget. So, these things need to be in place because it's really frustrating that, you all of a sudden you can't get into any of these because they haven't given you access to those general ledger numbers, or you can't get to the screen because, they have not given you access. So one of the things I say is when you're ready to get into this, you really need to speak and communicate and collaborate with your business office staff that handles this and the IT staff. They become very involved in what you need in this information. So we're going to now discuss about the general ledger. Now, when I talk about the general ledger, this is a module within Colleague. We have all sorts of modules. We have the student, which you're probably familiar with, the general ledger module. And this, again, is the place that you would need to go to have the mnemonics or processes that we're getting ready to cover. So the first one I'm going to bring up is the XDBR. It's a Departmental Budget Report. This starts with an X, and I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with what X means. I'll explain that. X's mean these are custom reports that were just built for North Carolina Community College System and Colleague. The disadvantage that the business office world sees, and for internal controls, these reports do not read off the general ledger security that I had mentioned earlier that was such a great tool. So therefore, you might see that a lot of business offices do not give you access to this screen. They might run it and print it for you. They really are cautious about these reports just because of that purpose. But this is just one of the reasons, and they might email or print them. But if you were doing an XDBR, as I was talking to JJ, he's wanted me to mention this. Again, this right here is, make sure you're in the correct fiscal year. That's crucial because you might have more than one fiscal year there. Let me explain. With our fiscal years, the business office, once they close them, you would not be able to go back and get this information here. So that's one of the things, your fiscal years, the calendar month you're working with. And again, remember I talked about that chart of accounts. Most of the time, the business office is going to give you a 5-digit number, and that's what we call a unit code. But for you guys, it's going to be what your department that you need. So that's pretty much, and you just save an update out of that report. So what does it produce? Here's a sample of the report. The report, one thing it does, it shows the budget status for your unit or your department by a given month. It displays, as you can see, the budget, what you expended this month, what you expended this year, your unexpended balance, and what's unencumbered. So they don't have any outstanding encumbrance. And when you're talking about encumbrances, I know it's money that you owe, that you're obligated to pay. It's for like purchase orders that, you might have purchased something, but you haven't received the goods. So our system set up that we can go ahead and take that into account for our budget. So this is a great tool so you can look at your budget amounts and look what you expended. It's just a tool for you to help analyze that information. So it's, you can select it for summary, which this is what I did, or you can make it, produce it in detail as well.
Miss Martin,
Uh-huh.
will you talk about how this process works in relation to uh, payments? Is it always real-time information? Is it a month behind your
Oh,
budget? Will you talk about that process?
oh, okay. Yes, that's a great question. What is shown here is what happens when it actually gets posted to the general ledger. And that is not a process that happens automatically. Our staff in the business office actually has to run what we call a piglet. It's a post general ledger transaction report. Um, and that's when this information would be entered. Like if there's a PO entered, all that information has to be posted to the general ledger to update your encumbrances, your vouchers when you've actually vouchered an expenditure. So it's somewhat real time, other than, the thing about an XDBR, if you have access to this, once Piglets run, and most colleges run Piglets daily for sure, and sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, because they're wanting this as accurate as possible. So yours would be somewhat on real time. If the business office was sending this to you at the end of the month and you get it on the 5th or 6th of the next month, you would probably be missing 5 days worth of the information that could possibly have happened after that. So when you're thinking about real time here, you're thinking about when the business office actually creates that general ledger posting for the accounts. What it has to do with, if they increased your budget, they would have to make a general ledger, a journal entry, and make a posting for that. So when you spend something, they voucher it and pay it with a check. Then they would actually, when that actually posts to the general ledger, that's when it would be updated. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. And that's going to be pretty much with all the reports that you have. It's just that if you can run these yourself, you have an advantage of seeing it on that day, what happened, what got posted that day, in that process. And if the PO you had ordered something and they created the PO and they run the posting transaction report, it would pick up that encumbrance. So you would at least know that it was outstanding, that you still had some money you had committed to it. Okay? So the next report, this is probably what most of you guys see most of the time, is the XIFR. Again, this is one of those X's. So, this is one of those things that, like I said, business office is going to give you like a purpose code, a unit code. I ran this one with a purpose code, but you might have a unit code. The purpose code, remember in the accounting procedure manual, 292 was with institutional funds fees. And when we're talking about our annual fee reports, the business office staff will run these reports, and they will use a lot of what we call the purpose code to help identify all the annual fees we can find, because you might have a unit code that you only can see, but they need to see a more bigger range on that. So that's one of the things. And, again, whatever's been posted is what you're going to see. So if they're handing you this, it really, on, say, February the 28th, they run it and hand it to you on March the 6th, you're not seeing that picture as of March the 6th. But if you have access, you would be able to see that. Also, again, you got to make sure you have the correct fiscal year and the calendar month, and you have some sort here in these funds, or how you want to sort it. You can do a drop down. You have all sorts of options. For you guys, they're probably going to give you a unit code. Is that correct, JJ?
Yes, ma'am. Most often.
Most often they're going to give you a unit code. So you're probably not going to have anything in fund or purpose, and they're going to give you that unit code, and then you would run your report. And this, like I said, you can see the revenues and the availabilities and cash. This is a really good tool. And this is only, as you said, it's institutional. That means that it's not state money that's here. It's all being held in our institutional fund, which is the college fund. So this is a XIFR sample report. In here you can see, and this one's a little, I didn't have one in my training account, nor the lady that sent me one, but the whole purpose, you can see your revenues, what you have, what you took in this month and what you spent, and then of course it has a breakdown of the actual codes, the expense codes, and it tells you what there was budgeted, what you expensed this month, what's for the year, what you unexpended, and your outstanding, and what's left. And that's sort of the same thing with the next one. Again, it shows that information. And I believe I have this. Sorry, guys. So that just gives you that information. We'll tell you this comes in very handy when you're doing that annual fee every year to determine what has actually been expended, revenues you took in, and what expenditures you have done. So the XIFR is the Institutional Funds Report, which generates the balance sheet for your college. And this monthly balance sheet, you can view what was budgeted, what was expended year to date, and what's not been spent. The only thing, it doesn't give you a lot of detail. If you wanted to know what something made up a particular expense item here, and like I said, this is not the best one in the world for you guys, but this is all I had. If you want to see what made up that, then you would have to go to the business office and say, I don't understand what's in this medical insurance for here. I don't think that's correct. Or for you guys, you might have expense for travel or something that you've used, or gasoline, or something like that, and you don't understand. You're really going to have to go to the business office to find out more information, or maybe there's some additional screens or reports you can use. So that's the XIFR. This is where the LGLA comes in hand. So say you did not have on the custom reports that we just went over, the XDBR, the XIFR, and you saw expense code that you thought maybe needed more researching. Having access to this LGL screen will allow you to run that account number. You don't have to ask the business office. You can run this. It's just a report. You can't hurt nothing. Again, I like this report because now, guess what? If I'd only gave JJ unit code 22322 as a general ledger security, and he put 232222, he would get an error message and wouldn't be able to view anything. So it sort of limits you back to those GL roles and security, so you're only looking at what the business office had granted you permission to do. And so this is a really great tool to do research. Again, you put your fiscal year. You can narrow the transaction date by month if you're sort of researching 1 month and want to see what's in there. You can do it by actuals, budget, or encumbrances. And I just picked actuals here, but you can actually choose those. It can show you what just postings that you have for budgets, postings that's out there that you've used for just encumbrances or actuals. Then you would put in your GL account number that you were needing to research. And like I said, if you use one that's not giving you a GL role and security, you will not be able to run anything. It will say not valid or no activities. So then you might need to get with your business office on that. And of course, you'll proceed with the report would be say yes. And here's a sample. So this screen is going to view the status of a particular account or group of accounts. And you can obtain this information for actuals, again, budgets or encumbrances. Most of the time, I believe when I'm running them, or probably you guys, and JJ, you can chime in on this. I think most of the time it's actuals. Encumbrances, I've never really ran it that often with that, but you can print the report and detail it. One feature I wish they would come out, I think in the future they might be, that you can actually export this to a worksheet, which would be great. But it's one of those that you can display all your activities. Now, of course, you might have to learn a few things about this, but over time, you will learn how to read this report very well. And so I looked, this was an instructional supply that somebody from the college voluntarily gave me. And I had questions about something. Say, for example, you seen this $645.61 here, and you're like, this is not mine. I don't have any Scientific Incorporated or whatever. I shouldn't have got that. So, I mean, things happen. People miscode. Or you might say, I thought so-and-so came in or something came in. And you might say, well, that's really not mine. So then you can work with the business office where they can get that corrected for you. But when you get this report, it's a great tool. For me, if I was looking at this, and you'll learn like source codes, PJs mean purchase journals, and reference numbers, anything that starts with V is a voucher. So there was probably a purchase order created for these, which created my encumbrances. Then when I created my vouchers, it relieves that and posts it to my actual. But this does give you a breakdown and gives you dates. And this is a great tool if you're wanting to research any further. You'll say I probably need to talk to the accounts payable person and find out if she can give me a detailed information about what did I order. I forgot about that. JJ, how do you use this with yours processes?
So typically I would run LGLA if a organization wanted to know how much money they spent in a particular month, to find out if checks have cleared, if everything that they everything that they paid for has actually hit their account, and they wanted to sort of check behind themselves to make sure that everything is properly aligned with how much money that they have to spend for the remainder of the year.
Right. And that's a great tool because, like I said, the one thing, it doesn't show the budget here, but it does tell you how much you spent. And like I said, that gets really crucial with, coming up, the time's coming very closely, that it's going to be crucial for all colleges to make sure they know what they spent and what they have left over or how close they are. So that's another tool that you can have. The next one is the GLTB. It's a General Ledger Trial Balance. And of course, this one's a little more detailed in a process of how you can do. You can view this by summaries and detail. Again, it's just a tool to help you download. You can download this one to an Excel spreadsheet and look at all your information to see what has hit your accounts that you have been granted access to do that information. So again, I'm not going to get a lot of detail on this, but like the fiscal year, again, you choose how you want to summarize this. Detail or summary. You put by the month. You can choose year-to-date or monthly. You can create a spreadsheet. But the one thing is, on the GL account definition, you have to detail into that, and you eventually can come to this form, and you can actually run it by the general ledger number. Or for you guys, you might come down to number 9 and just say include your unit code. Is that how you do that, JJ, most of the time?
Yes, ma'am.
And like you said, do you run it in detail mode and generate a spreadsheet?
Yes. So yes, I would run this detailed, and then the report I would receive, I would print out, but then also try to import it in Excel and then do some manipulation from there.
Right. And now there is a tool down here where it says generate spreadsheet. Right here, if you answer that to yes, JJ, it will create it into a worksheet for you. So try that next time when you're running this. A lot of colleges, this was something they'd asked for, so that way, because it is hard to manipulate this report, as you're going to see on the next page. This is what it comes out to look like. Detail, I've got this one in just detail, but you can do it in summary. This is in summary mode. The detail one is a little hard to read because it's sort of jumbled and lots of pages, I would say. But this can give you an overview. Some of you might have some open imbalances. Most of the time you don't have anything in your expenses, and you shouldn't have anything in your expense accounts. They should be closed to your capital account. So here, what the main thing is, you're looking at your year-to-date and what's been credited and what your closing balance is. Again, you're sort of looking to do that research tool. What have you spent? What have I spent? What's my balance left? What have I spent to up to date? And it's real crucial that you keep up with this, because I'm sure, as JJ can tell us, that this becomes very crucial in knowing what you have left and what you can spend before the close of the fiscal year.
Yes, ma'am. Very true.
Yeah. So, and I suggest that you try to do the worksheet in that process. So that's another tool. This is account. I don't know if anybody uses this much, but a lot of the business office people will use this, and it's a summary. It's called the GLSA. It's a summary account availability screen. You can run for budget line items, again, like you do in the general ledger. You can choose yours. Yours would probably be unit codes. And you can also select revenue accounts and see what encumbrances. The figures display a comparison to your allocated budgets. And it gives you a percentage of whether you're good or bad, And so that's one of the advantages. The business office runs this a lot of times. So in this, I would think it's just a account. One thing, it doesn't have the capability of being exported to a spreadsheet. But again, it looks almost like the GLTV. But you go to the fiscal year and put 2017, and of course that would be whatever fiscal year, but we're looking at fiscal year, so make sure you do the correct year, your calendar ending of the month, and I would always do all statuses because you can ask it for different statuses like budget, encumbrances, but I want to see all my information. Then again, the GL count definition, you would detail into that, and you will get to this screen here, and this is, again, you have to sort of learn how to do this, but most of you would probably go to number 9 down here and put an I and put your 5-digit unit code so you can see that information. So I really like this report. It's sort of a quick process, but this is what it looks like. It gives you that allocated budget, what you have spent to date, and any encumbrances. Also, you can expect the percentage of what you're spending. So as you can see here, we allocated $1,500 for gasoline. We've only spent $466, but we got a commitment of $1,533. So guess what? We have overspent. And it's telling me right there I've overspent, and I'm probably going to be about $500 in the hole. So I don't know if have you ever used this report, JJ?
This is the first time I've seen this one. Man, I wish I would have known about this one sooner.
Yeah, I wish you had more of a Excel spreadsheet too, but the whole thing, it doesn't give you, like I said, right here, you're getting all your general ledger account numbers. So, if you went down here and all of a sudden, let's say out-of-state lodging, for example, and I have 3,165.01, and I'm like, I know we spent more money than that, so then you could do some research and go back to your GLTB or your LGLA and things like that to look and you like might notice that there was an invoice missing, and you're like, that happened 3 months ago. I need to find out who's assumed my travel, out of state meals or lodging. So it's just it's a quick eye tool, and the business office uses it a lot. We use it a lot for our state fund budget, because when it gets crunch time, we're looking, and if we have 11,000 left here, we're in the hole, 1,028.55. We're seeing if we can move that money. So we use this report a lot, but I think it would be a great tool for you guys as well, because it's sort of a quick glance, and it's by available. You're looking again. Remember, it's not going to be real time until we post the general ledger transactions that's hitting it. But if you had access to this and they posted and paid, it's got your encumbrances in here, so your PO should already be, and it sort of gives you an idea. So I hope y'all might like that report. When I was working with the college trying to get some examples, she said, I use this a lot of times, and she said, I've really encouraged my budget officers at her college that she has, that's what she calls them, to look at this, because sometimes it helps them utilize what they have and what they can spend and what they can't spend in just a quick glance. But it's a tool, and this is all in the general ledger. So this is the general ledger section. Do we have any questions when I have, these are reports. They're all reports. None of them are going to touch anything in COLA. You can't change anything, and you can't hurt anything. It's just tools that you can use to review what if the business office or is giving you the XDBR or XIFR, those things. If they're giving you that, it's a tool for you to do some research, or you can run those. The thing is, there's some colleges who still actually create reports and send to the colleges. Okay. So Web Advisor, this came out about 2008, 2009. It was real popular. So I do not know many schools that are not on Web Advisor. Most of them are up and running on Web Advisor with students registering for classes and taking payments. Therefore, I do not understand why colleges are not on Web Advisor for budget. One thing I have noticed when some schools are not is because the business office has not set up their GL security roles for people. They don't want to have to go through that process. But, really, if they set them up by positions, I think the workload would be a great tool. And then, of course, they have that financial web parameter screen. They have to set up a call center. It's very simple. And then the IT has to do some links. But if you're already in the Web Advisor, it's really a good tool, because guess what? As a staff member, you can just log into your Web Advisor wherever you need to be, and you can view your budget. It gives you that demand access right at your fingertips. Again, nothing's going to show up until, we posted in the transactions in the business office. But if you're at home and you can log into your Web Advisor account, or if you're at a meeting, you can log into your Web Advisor account, you can look at your budget. You can look at those fees. You can see what you spent. It's just a little more friendly. You can do multiple years. And one of the tools really great, you'll be able to go all the way and drill down on stuff to be able to look at it, which makes it so tremendously a great workflow for you, reduces having to call the business office or wait till somebody in the business office can help you determine something. But if you find something wrong, you're still going to have to communicate. I will say communication is vital in all with the areas, but this just gives you a tool that's right at your fingertips. So let's look at what we have. And like I said, these are from a college. So most of you would have this Web Advisor menu, and IT would have to create this link, and of course the business office has set up those roles and those GL security roles for you. So most of them is going to be under this financial information, and you're going to have budget selection or budget summary that you can click on. And here, again, it's sort of like the GLTB when you come in. For you guys, you might only have a unit code that you know. You don't have the fund and the purpose. But you can select what you need here for your components, the GL components. Remember that big long general ledger account number we had? All this has something to do with the funds, the purpose, the objects, but most of you would have a unit code. JJ, did y'all have Web Advisor at your college?
No, ma'am. This is brand new to me.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not quite sure why a lot of colleges didn't do this when they went ahead, because, I mean, there's just one parameter screen, and so the business office has to set up, and I just don't know. I believe, I've ran in a lot of schools that the GL security was something that they didn't want to set up, but I think over the years that's moved forward. You can choose the different ways you want to sort. This is yours, so you can actually do it. You can select drop down here. This is a screenshot for fiscal years that you have available. You can see multiple fiscal years to compare. Like, let's say, for example, you're getting ready to budget for 2018. You could go out here and see what your 2016 and 2017, what you spent, so you'll have an idea. Your actual begin dates, you can do it by the month and end dates. Then I'm going to give you an idea. This is a report that a school sent me. So this is their selection report that they got. This person, they had roles and securities for all these unit code 95,000. And where you see these little underlines under something here, where you see it underlined, that means if you had a question on that, you can actually detail. You can detail into the budget, you can detail into the commerce, you can detail into actual to actually see the information. And I know this might be a little small for you, but right here, remember we had the budget information. It tells you the reference number, the $1,500. It tells you it was a budget journal entry number. She actually detailed on the gasoline activity, where we had the 1535. That's the encumbrance. It actually tells her the PO, so she can detail on down, and she can actually view that PO. And guess what? In that PO, it even shows your requisitions, your vouchers, what's expected to be ordered. And from there, you can keep detailing into the voucher numbers and down all the way to the requisition if you wanted to see it. I mean, that's how detailed this can be. So, I mean, you can go as detailed as you want. So if you had a question, if it has a line under it and it's underlined, then you can just keep detailing into that information within Web Advisor. To me, this really does allow you as an end user the capability to view and research and provide your own analysis on this before you have to involve other people. Because a lot of times you're just looking at the voucher and say, oh yeah, I remember that now, so this really helps out. So like I said, you might have created this requisition at the beginning of the fiscal year in July, and you just forgot all about that you had all this stuff that was regularly being ordered. So that's information how that is. And I wished I was able to show you a lot more, but our accounts does not have a lot in it. But this is, a very good tool for you to use. So do we have any questions on the Web Advisor screen? I mean, it's a great tool because, I mean, really, it's not a lot of setup. if you're already there, I don't think it's a lot of setup on the IT. I always say things are simple. Sometimes IT staff will say, Holly, it's not that simple. But if you're already up on WebAdvisor, I would highly suggest looking into that process, because like I said, you don't have to worry about learning a mnemonic name or a screen like a GLTB or GLSA or all that. You know, if you got your GL roles and security set up and the parameter screen set up and IT has everything linked, you should be able to go out there and look at how much detail that you can get. I mean, you can get lots of detail. So I think that's a great tool that you can use. So if you think that's great, the next is, like, as my mom and daddy said, it's better than what's that? What's a butter on toast or something? That kind of thing. The next one, self-service. Oh my goodness. I think self-service is going to help y'all tremendously. It's really WebAdvisor advanced to a modernized platform. I mean, it's just more modernized. It's, you know, you've done all the work. I mean, basically all the work is done. If you set up if you're been on WebAdvisor with budget, you can move to self-service. IT just has to set up some roles and permissions and create a little link to allow that tab to be seen, in which faculty or staff needs to be able to have access to view. Again, you can see multiple years. This one's a great, great tool. You can export it. It's just really, to me, that user-friendly. Again, the real-time advantage is only when we post. But guess what? You can sit and look at this anytime. You can print out, export these to anything, have documentation that you can look. Say somebody asked you a question, you could export some of this stuff. So I think this is where you want to go. You know, I have a feeling we're not going to have a lot of choices in this because WebAdvisor will be going away, but the self-service is so nice. So this is what self-service looks like. One advantage that you can do with this modernized platform is, again, self-service. You can log into this. You don't have to be in UIs. What I'm saying, UI, I'm sorry, that's a little technical, that you're having to be in colleague. You can do this just like WebAdvisor. You can log in. You can see your information. Again, our GL securities are being in place. That's a great internal control. We've got our web screen. They've signed you. So look at this. I have my call center. It's just a really user-friendly. They allow you permission. You would have to see the budget. This is your little display ribbon, and I have the budget circled here. I have call centers. My call centers are my fiscal year. So I have a drop down. I can look at fiscal years. Then, of course, there's bars. You can do this bar ways. That's really, you know, to me, I like the red and the green because it sort of makes me like, oh, stop. As you can tell, we didn't have a lot of budget. We're in greens on here, but this gives you an idea, a quick glance. Then you can change it to just a regular view. There's the export feature, one of the new things that's come out that is just now in the new version 2.14 and 2.14.1. They have self-service has versions that come out every quarter mainly. You can sort this the way you want to. This is your landing page. You can do what you want, how you want to view it. So, I mean, you know, the export thing is something they didn't have in the previous versions. I think that's such a wonderful tool. Now you can export it. It's called a CVS file. You know, it's just like WebAdvisor. I don't know. When I look at this, it's just more modernized. It's more that one-shop deal. I mean, because I'm going to be honest with you, once you're set up in self-service and they give you access, you can do anything that's on over here that they've allowed. You can view students' accounts. You can look at your employment. You can do your tax information. of your registering students and faculty. There's just, as in a big picture, it's really very integrated, and it's such a great tool, and it's just modernized and it's very clean. So I want to give you some more examples. Once I detailed in on that general ledger account, that here this to me is very clean. It gives you the total at the top, what you're budgeted, what you've actually spent, and any encumbrances you had or what's remaining. And it tells you your financial health. It's sort of like, you get a good green check mark. Red means you've overspent. Yellow means you better take notice because you're getting close. So this is what it looks like. And of course, again, you can export this feature. It's sort of like I said, it's very user friendly. It's a great tool for end users. It's not real techy. You don't have to do a lot. It's sort of visual, and I like that visual stuff. Also, I wanted to show, like, on each one of these line items that we have here is related to your general ledger account. So you can just expand that, and that gives your general ledger account on here. And guess what? You can just click on those general ledger accounts. Well, hang on, I forgot this. I forgot I did the export feature here. So if you wanted to export that GL Service Detail Call Center, this is what the export would look like. And you don't have to do anything. The only thing I had to do was like just make my columns a little wider to make it look more uniform and clean. So it's really a clean process. So really I want to talk about next is this little general ledger number, account number. Yours is going to have your unit code that you've been given. You can just expand it and click on that GL number, and guess what? It shows you all in the encumbrances. If it had encumbrances, it would list it. Then of course we have the information here and what was budgeted, and then of course you can even detail even further. So let's see, I did the one for office supplies. So we didn't have any encumbrance, but again, we have a voucher. It tells you the voucher number down here. I detailed in on it, and guess what? It tells me my invoice date, my due date, what check number, what AP type, what the supplies it went to, and anything that has expand, you can expand. So this, to me, is more tools than you need, because you can just see it and get to the information very clean. So that's self-service. I'm pushed for self-service because it really is a modernized platform. It's very end-user friendly, and it's just cleaner, and it's sort of a really one-shop deal for the staff member, because if you have other access, then you just have that one ribbon and tabs, and you can click on those and go to anything you want to go to that you have access to in self-service. But one of the things, an advantage of the Web Advisor and self-service, is you can do most of your research on your own to figure out what's in there. So do we have any questions about the self-service?
Can you talk a little bit about the timeline of self-service and when colleges are moving toward self-service, or sort of where we are in that process?
Where we would like for all the colleges to be at, we would love for all 58 to be on board by now. I would say that when I'm thinking about self-service, there is, the IT staff has a lot of cleanup and things they have to do to get there. I see more colleges on the student finance area. I think a lot of them probably will done. They are doing the student planning, advising. To be honest with you, I would think we probably have maybe 25, 30 colleges that's probably not full-fledged. I'll be honest with you, the project accounting that which would not bother you. It came out in the early versions, but colleges do not use it. It really wasn't until the 2.12 version, like I said, they come out every quarter, that the budget really came available. And at that point, I think colleges didn't realize that there was not a lot of work. So if they were already up on WebAdvisor and they had self-service, most of those still might not be on the budget, because I've only done one training class, and one of the ladies said, oh, so I really don't have anything to do. IT just has to give them roles and permissions and set up the tab. And I'm like, yeah. I said, you've done all the work. So I think moving forward, that would be the great thing to do. But, to be honest with you, we're really encouraging colleges. I know we're wanting to encourage colleges to move forward. And to me, if you're already on WebAdvisor, and IT can get everything running and cleaned up for self-service, because there's a lot of servers and things like that they have to do with this information, then, budget might not be a hard thing to bring up, because if you already got on WebAdvisor, you're pretty much there. And to be honest with you, student finance is very simple to bring up. It's one of the two things when I was setting up Colleague, AR/CR, accounts receivable and cash receipts, was probably the most difficult, and self-service has been the most smooth setup. So I really think they're going to try to encourage colleges to move forward with that information, but you might want to ask Arthur Holmesby to get some more information on where they want to move forward. But I'll be honest with you, self-service is so much user-friendly, and like I said, you can export it. You can do a lot of things with it. I mean, WebAdvisor's good. If I had a choice, if I was still doing it by hand, I'd at least get the WebAdvisor if I had WebAdvisor. But if you're on self-service, I would say, let's see what we can do about moving forward to self-service. Because to me, if I was sitting at my computer and I wanted to bring something up, and I could export it right over there and let somebody, you could actually view it with people. Just export it to your desktop, and there you have it, ready to show if you needed it.
Thank you.
So we have any more questions? Well, as always, I hope we accomplished what we set out today to do, talk about fees and revenues and the accounting procedure manual, and provide you some overviews of Colleague reports that you can use to view and analyze your budget, and not just the Colleague reports that, even though they're part of Colleague, looking at your WebAdvisor, how you can set WebAdvisor up, because that is so much better for you to do your research. Like, you can look at it. And then, of course, self-service is the modernization of how to be able to view and analyze that budget at your fingertips. And I really appreciate, JJ, for you asking me to present today about our CIS system, Colleague, and provide you any opportunities that, maybe give you some more ideas how you can analyze your budget and work on that, because the current fiscal year is getting close. So to a close, I mean, it's already February, and they're going to be asking you, have you got all your money spent? And you have to make sure you know how to research it to make sure that's done. And like I said, if you need me for anything, I'm always willing to help in any way I can.
Ms. Martin, thank you so much for the information that you shared today. You definitely have a great depth of knowledge of the financial systems that our colleges are using, and you are a great resource for our faculty and our staff members. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And y'all go enjoy Durham.